My name is Sig Odegard, and everybody calls me Sig because it's easier.
So is it Sigurd?
Right.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever caught that.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that was my grandfather's name. Through the years, I've been mainly in the insurance industry, and I've done a few odds and ends, different things through my life that I've learned a lot from. And the last 11 years, I've done crop adjusting, which a lot of the people from the church would know because I do call on a lot of them. So I get to visit with them quite often.
All right.
When I was young, in fact, I thought about being a pastor. And then I kind of drifted away, as a lot of people do when they get into college and whatnot. And yet, I knew he was always there. You know, I had that feeling. When we got married, my wife was Catholic and her parents were very staunch Catholic. And so I changed to the Catholic faith. And we had that all the way through. Our kids were growing. And at that point, we decided we weren't getting what we needed out of the church. And so we started looking. And then we changed churches a few times as people, things happened. And so then we ended up here at Victory. And it's been great.
That's awesome. So when was that when you came to Victory?
I don't even remember.
It was several years ago?
Yeah, it's been quite a few years.
Was it before Pastor Sean?
No, he was here.
Okay. So sometime within the last 20 years?
Yeah, probably, okay. I'm guessing probably 6-7 years ago.
Okay, so it's been that long.
We were going to Arizona, and I got a cold. And so when I got to Arizona, I got everything out of the car and, put away. And my cold got really, really bad. But it was just a cold. Okay?
Didn't think much of it.
No. And I woke up one morning, I told Sharon, I said, my foot hurts. I think I sprained my leg. She said, how can you sprain your leg? You were in bed all day yesterday. Okay, so we went to, they told us, we were talking to a nurse that was in the court there, and we said, she said, go to a podiatrist. So we went to a podiatrist, and he thought it was gout. So he gave me some medicine. I went home. That was on a Thursday. On Friday, it was worse. So I went to urgent care. They thought it was gout. They gave me some different medicine. By Monday, I was in severe pain. So we went to the emergency room at the hospital. And they thought it was cellulitis. So they said they'd put me in the hospital for a day or two and give me medicine and that would take care of it. Well, it didn't. My foot started turning black. And so the surgeon came in and he cleaned all of that off the top of my foot. And that didn't help. And so he started looking a little further, and up behind my knee, I had a blood clot, which was caused by COVID. And so, but by then I'd been 10 days without any blood in my foot.
So you had a blockage
Yeah.
in your vein that was causing the blood to not get down
to the foot. Most people that got that blood clot, it went up. And when it went up, it would kill you.
Yeah.
It'd go into your lungs and heart, and that was it.
Yeah.
Mine stayed down.
Wow.
The only thing I could say is God was keeping it there.
Wow.
Whether he had something that I should be doing, I don't know. I still haven't figured that out. But anyway, so I spent a month in the hospital after they took my leg. And the poor surgeon, when he came in and told me I'd take my foot off, he was almost crying. And he said, I will leave you with a good enough stump so that you can walk decently. And so anyway, I got through that. Now in the middle of this, you know, you're pretty well doped up because of the pain. They came in and they said, do you want to go to therapy or intense therapy? I didn't have a clue what either one of them was. And without even thinking, and this is where I think God was pushing me, I said intense therapy. And so they loaded me up in an ambulance and they took me over to a place in Scottsdale. And I was in there for a week, and there they trained you not only work on your strength, they train you how to live without a leg, which was good. Mm-hmm. And so I got through the first week, you know, which I'm still coming out of a lot of my medicines. Mm-hmm. So, but he was so good about it. He was just a very caring individual. So the second week, we had been working hard. And he said one day, he said, I think we need to get outside. So he took me outside, and they had a real nice little court there. It was all, you know, so it was nice outside. There was no wind, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And he said, can I play you a song? And I said, sure. You know, I had no clue what he was going to do. Mm-hmm. So he gets out his phone, and he plays me a song, and I started hearing that thing. It was a Jewish healing song. Mm-hmm. And what so I started asking him about questions, about where did you get this, you know? And he said, well, I'm a Masonic Jew. Mm. He said, we have a huge church here in Scottsdale. Yeah. So we talked a little bit more, and we went back in, and the next day, we were down in therapy. It got to be close to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And he said, I got to go do some things. He said, I'm going to push you into this room. He said, they'll take you back to your room when they get done. And I said, fine. He pushed me into a Bible study. So there was 2 nurses that led the Bible study. And they were really good. And so that was on a Wednesday. And I was getting out on Friday. And Thursday, the one nurse came down to see me, or I thought she was a nurse. She was a doctor, actually. She came down and she gave me a list of what they were going to study the next week, which, you know, was great. And so I started questioning her because I said, the government doesn't want the hospitals or anybody talking about God and what's going on. How do you get by? She said, we do what we feel like. She said, I'm the head of a surgical department. We do minor surgeries if we have to. She said, I'm not. My whole department is born again Christians. You know, so to me, God pushed me to go there simply because of that. You know, between what I found out from him and what I found out from them, it was, you know, that's why I was there. Because by the time they came to me, my mind was starting to clear. Yeah. And that was great. Yeah. So anyway, I got home on a Friday. I had my doctor's appointment on Monday. They were going to take stitches out. And so I got over we went on Monday to get my stitches out. Mm-hmm. The doctor looked at it, and he said, you've got an infection in there. So he said, you're going to go back in the hospital. So I went back for 3 weeks. I laid in the hospital. They wouldn't let me out of bed. They wouldn't let me do anything. And during that time, you're laying there, and of course it was tough for anybody to get in to see me because it was during the COVID.
Yeah.
I could have one or two visitors a day. So I got a visit from Dwight and Glenn Schmidt. And they gave me a book. It's a little devotional. It's called Jesus Today. And that carried me through. It is a fantastic book. But anyway, so I got out of there. They put in a PICC line for IVs. And they said, okay, you're going to go home with a wound vac. And you're going to have to get IVs every day. Now, my poor wife, because all of a sudden she's never done anything like this, she was in panic. But they showed her how to do it. And she took care of the IV. Okay? The wound vac, I ended up with home health. And if anybody ever knows, they're great, they help you heal fast, but they are miserable. That is the worst pain that I've had all the way through. And it wasn't the fact when it was on. They had to clean it every other day. And part of that was there was a little sponge that went into the incision. And that would actually grow in there in a day. And they had to rip it out. So they call me like an hour before. And they tell me, take your pain pills. We're coming. And so they prepared me. They were so good about it. You know, and they tried everything they could not to. So, I mean, they were great. But through this all, depression will get to you. And I really went down for a while. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, I was really depressed. And one night, I got a call from a fellow from church here that I knew. We had talked off and on, but nothing, you know, serious. And he started telling me his story about what he went through. And a lot of it was the same thing as what I'm going through. And that's down in Marina. Anyway, when he got done, I told Sharon, I said, God sent him to tell me what I was going through. So after that, I thought, if he can do it, I can do it. Because his was worse than mine. But until I heard that, it was very tough. And I had a lot of phone calls from friends, from the people in the church here. It's what kept me going. If I had to look back, I know God talked to me different times during all of this, and he said, I'm with you. So I know God was there. He's been directing this whole thing. The second thing was my wife. The stress that was put on her, not only that, but physically, to get me up and down and, you know, everything, it's a chore. And I really felt sorry for her. But anyway, when I got home from the hospital, now we didn't know anybody in our park there. Guy across the street comes over and says to me, or he said to Sharon, he said, I can't get him down the ramp. He said, I'm not strong enough, because our ramp was fairly steep. He said, if you can get him down, I will take him to Bible study every Tuesday. So Tuesday morning came, put the moon back on the back of the wheelchair, which it was battery operated. And so away we went to the Bible study. He pushes me into this room, 38 guys. And what I didn't realize, they had been praying for me all the way through. And so I said I felt so at peace through that whole thing. It was very difficult. So anyway, I got healed up. And I got my prosthesis. And it was getting very hot down there. So we decided we were going to come home. And so they told us that they put the prosthesis on and they said, well, you should be good. So I drove all the way home. I was able to do that. And we got home and they told us they better find somebody to adjust this if you have to. And so we went to a fellow down here at the Ann Carlson School. And he looked at it and he said, I'm not good enough to help you. He said, you need to see this fellow in Bismarck. So he scheduled an appointment for me and I went out there. And I said, I know there again, God was pushing me. Because we got out there and he looked at everything and he said, you have an ulcer in that leg caused by the prosthesis. And he said, I can't fix that. Well, Medicare will not pay for anything unless it's been over 6 months when you get the initial. He said, I'm going to have to build you one. And my first thought was, what's it going to cost me? He said, don't worry about it. So in a couple of weeks, he built me a new prosthesis. And it worked great. Now, I've never received a bill for it.
That's something.
So, there again, God sent me the right place. But anyway, then in December, I got a regular prosthesis. Now, there's times when I've had severe pain because one of the things that the nurse told me, she said, normally when you have an amputation, it's because you got numbness or something has taken the feeling away in your feet. Mine didn't have a chance to go away. So my legs would there'd be sharp pains. Whether it was in bed or it was, up. And I had a therapist who worked on that. And it was in the scar tissue. And so he worked on it and it was tough going, but it worked. So my pain is fairly well gone right now. So I said everything that I look back and done, it was because God was pushing me there. That's the only thing I can say.
I'm hearing a common theme here, Sig, of God just carrying you through.
Yeah.
Providing everything you need every step of the way.
Yeah. We had bought this place a year before. We had spent 2 weeks there. And so Sharon had a place to stay. She could go. That part didn't cost us. It was close to the hospital. Everything had just worked out.
Wow.
There was no way we could have planned it.
Yeah. But God just orchestrated everything.
Yeah. He just took care of me all the way through.
And here you are, getting to share the story of how God got you through.
Yeah. And I said, I know without the encouragement from God's people, I wouldn't have made it. I know. I'd have given up. And yet, they kept calling. And it just gave me the strength to keep going. You know, my feeling is, if you have a good spouse, you better work hard to keep them. Whether it's a husband or a wife,
Amen.
you work hard for it.
Amen.
The only thing I will say is that I think probably through my life, I did not listen as close to God as what I should have. And through this taught me that. I got to listen a little better. I don't know how much longer I got because I'm getting kind of old, but I think he was trying to teach me something. And what he has planned for me to keep me here, I don't know. But I know it must be a purpose of some kind. And that's all I can look forward to. What he wants me to do.